right now, everyone, I just want to welcome you all here. Paul just kind of called in and signed on, and we're here. Paul, where are you right now? Just tell us, where are you? You're in your house?
I'm in my house. I'm in the second floor of my home. I have a little room that I use as a demo studio. So it's nothing fancy, but it's a nice little room that we use to make demos and things like that. Yesterday, I used it to sing a duet on a new Katherines album. She uploaded a song from Ireland, and I got to sing the duet here in my little studio and send it back to her last night. So, yeah, we still believe. She's doing a new version of that song. We still believe. So,
really?
Anyway.
I cannot wait for that to come out. I love always hearing Katherines' voice on your albums, and it certainly comes through on this Christmas album a lot. So obviously you guys have a great friendship. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? What is the friendship you and Katherine have had? How did that all grow and develop?
Years ago, when we did the album A Greater Song, that particular album had a lot of co-writes with. I just went over to England for about a month and went to a writer's retreat, and Matt Redman and Katherine and many, many artists from over there, Graham Kendrick. And so I just spent a few days with each one of them, just getting to hang at their place. We had coffee or tea, and we would, begin to worship together, and we just write songs together. And so A Greater Song, which is, that's almost 10 years ago, but that album was primarily co-written with most of the writers from over in England, Graham and Matt Redman and Katherine. And so then I asked Katherine to sing on that project, and, she came over here with her husband, Alan, and my wife and I have been over to their place many times, and she's, their whole family is just a good friend. We've become close friends. So on this album, on the Christmas album, we wrote a song together called This Is Love. And it's a entirely new song, new verses, new chorus, and then as a bridge, we used the old, somebody said it's kind of a Catholic hymn, but, I grew up as a Catholic kid, so maybe that's why it resonated with me, but I always kind of find a way to work it in each Christmas at my church, and that's Come Thou Long Expected Jesus. And, So, but the song is called This Is Love. I don't know if we're going to play any clips here and there, or maybe. Yes,
unfortunately, we can't. We can't do that just because of the way we're technically set up. But people can definitely go and stream the songs either while they're listening to us or afterwards for sure. So we'll talk about that, and want to talk through all the songs. Maybe before we get into the
chord chart is free for this
song.
Sorry, I just noticed the chord chart is free for This Is Love today. If people click on
Paul, you should get it.
I think I might get it.
It, Paul.
The trouble of making it.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay.
So, hey, I want to kind of step back in time a little bit just from this year and look at the bit of the journey of, the whole idea of doing this Christmas album. Maybe you've been thinking about it for years and just finally got to it. And I'm sure you had to be thinking about Christmas in, was it July or June, when the sun was baking down, and that's just how it goes when you're recording a Christmas album. So why don't we go back a few months and tell me about the journey of where the seed of this vision and started.
Well, I'll go back. Thanks. I'll go back almost 15, 20 years. Is that as a worship pastor at my church here in Texas, every time we'd hit Thanksgiving, at least in America, it's around the end of November, and pretty much from Thanksgiving until the end of the year, people want to sing Christmas carols, which is I totally get, and I love to sing them too. And the only challenge with Christmas carols I found is often, throughout the year, most of us that are tuned in here, we're used to worshiping God, singing songs directly to Him. Quite often, I'll use this phrase, but worship choruses essentially are singing our prayers to God. And however, most Christmas carols are singing about the Lord. It's the thing that really got me years ago was "Oh Holy Night." It's such a beautiful song, and here you are singing "Oh Holy Night." And, oh, night divine. And I realized with my hands in the air, I was singing to a night, N-I-G-H-T. And I thought, this is almost pantheistic or something. This is, so, of course, it's a beautiful song, but what it did was stir in me the desire as a worship pastor is how can we blend classic Christmas carols with modern worship choruses in such a way that people can really glean, all of us can glean from the rich heritage of the old carols and yet be directed and still have an opportunity to express a vertically, if you will, to express directly to the Lord somehow by combining it with a new section or familiar chorus, or maybe taking a familiar chorus and rewriting the verses, like I did with Offering. Some of the friends tuning in might have heard that version over the years, where I just took the chorus, Offering, I bring an offering of worship to my King, and then just rewrote the verse, a Christmas verse. And so that's what this whole project is, basically. Half of it, I would say, are familiar Christmas carols combined with either a familiar chorus or a new chorus. And then the other maybe third of the album are a few familiar choruses, like Your Name, for example. We took the chorus Your Name, which the chorus to me is it's a vertical expression of worship. Your name is a strong and mighty tower. And then, but on the bridge and on the outro, and we rewrote verses for Christmas. At the end we go out with God with us, Emmanuel. God with us, Emmanuel. Now we adore your name. Your name is a strong and mighty tower. So I'm talking fast here, but I'm trying to give you the bottom line.
That's all right.
That's the heartbeat behind the project. So that's why it was not unusual for me, really, in May, June, July, as we were recording this, because for the last, like I said, 15 years, I've been chewing on doing a project like this, a project that would serve the church. I mean, my voice, I don't have a Nat King Cole or Michael Bublé kind of voice, so I thought people don't want to hear me singing, chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I thought, well, I'm not going to do a Christmas album for the sake of doing an album, but this was very intentional, a Christmas worship project to serve the church, and maybe it will help some churches, find a few songs that will help keep their congregations worshiping throughout the season.
Yeah. Paul, one of the things I hear in you, and I think we all so appreciate, is we just know that you're writing and you are ministering and writing and recording out of your own worship. Like, you are a worship pastor, a couple times a week, a couple times a month, you are in your church working with regular worship teams and experiencing, what that's like. So this whole album, I guess what I'm hearing you say is that it comes out of your experience as a worship pastor going, okay, Thanksgiving's over, Christmas is here, and I still want to worship, to God, not just sing about Him. I want to pray my songs and sing my prayers to Him, and that's, I guess, where this album is coming from, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's, again, these are songs and arrangements that I've actually done the last few years with a few tweaks here and there. So, again, it was just knowing that there's got to be people out there like me who are in a church of, maybe 300, 400, 500, maybe 1,000, maybe a few thousand. It doesn't matter the size of your church, but you're confronted with the same issue: is how do we keep our folks focused on the Lord, singing their prayers to Him throughout the Christmas season, and yet still incorporating the beauty and the content that's in the old Christmas carols. A lot of it is quite powerful. You take a song like "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," I mean, there's just so much gospel in there, so much New Testament, the letters of Paul. I mean, a lot of it almost feels like you're singing Scripture. How he laid his glory by. Mild he lays his glory by. Born that men no more may die. Born to raise the sons of earth. Born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. So just powerful theology, but that's an example where we took that song.
You are now unmuted.
And I felt like we needed a release. So last Christmas,
you are now muted.
Last Christmas we came out of that, and I stuck a recent chorus that I wrote last year called King of Heaven, and folks can find that on, if they just Google later, King of Heaven on YouTube. All sons and daughters sang that with me. But anyway, we come, hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. King of heaven, come down. King of heaven, come now. Let your glory reign, shining like the day. King of heaven, come. So that was the idea of the old hymn, and then here's a fresh, simple chorus that allows our folks to, almost as a release or a response to all this incredible content about the Lord, and then giving our people a chance to respond personally to the Lord and saying, thank you, Lord. So,
I got an opportunity to get some of the audio for this album as it was developing. I get the files, version 3, now this is version 4, version 5, so I'd be kind of listening as these songs were being crafted and developed and refined, and now there's a choir in the background, and you've added a vocal, and you've taken out a section, and that whole process that comes in crafting these songs. So I know one of the things you were excited about, Paul, was adding some choir and that kind of congregational sound into this. It's not just a solo artist sort of type sound that you have. So was that part of your like, who was the choir that you worked with, and where did you go? How did that all come about and shape the arrangement?
Well, again, there's a lot of diversity on purpose. I think the last few albums, I'm finding a lot of joy in incorporating as many friends that I know, a lot of friendships near and far, So, a lot of the album is maybe produced kind of Americana, and there's some young worship leaders that you've never heard of that I've just come across in the last year or two. One is she's a worship leader in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a senior in college there that goes to school with my daughter, and I just love her voice and her heart for God, so she sings with me on one. There's a gal here with Teen Mania who it's just, you've never heard her name. It was just fun to not go to Nashville and get all the big names. I mean, with all due respect, it was just fun to find young people in their early 20s that I really believe in. I see something, just a gifting in them, and it was fun to invite them to my house, and we all stood around here, and they spent the weekend here. We probably had about 12 young people here that were part of this small group. And then another thing is we went up to New York City. Najee Jefferson, who used to be with Brooklyn Tabernacle and now is a worship pastor in Queens, New York. He also sings with New Breed, in Israel and New Breed. But Najee Jefferson, and I said, man, I'd love to get you and maybe a small choir, blah, blah, blah. So it was going to be his church, but instead he said, bro, I got the perfect choir right across the river in Elizabeth, New Jersey, right across from New York City. And I went up there for 2 days, and they sang on three of the songs. And it was just beautiful to see them get off of work. They show up at this church, and some of them are dressed in suits and ties, and some of them are blue-collar workers, and some are moms. Excuse me. But once they started opening their mouth, it was so powerful, just so beautiful. And they sing on Offering. At the end, you've never heard Offering like this. This is, and Najee does kind of a duet with me, and at the end, it just kicks into fifth gear. And they're like, whoa, we bring an offering to you. It sounds like 1,000 people. Yeah. And it's powerful. I mean, the producer, Michael Rothbach, and I were just fighting back tears. It was just so innocent and beautiful and real. Just So they sing on What Can I Do? They sing on Offering, and then they do this. They do a beautiful just ooze. We had them at the end of the song. It was almost like a spontaneous moment where they're like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it any justice, forgive me. Just beautiful. So, yeah, so I feel like you've got this sort of young Americana, a lot of acoustic instruments going on, and then you've got sort of a gospel choir out of New York City. And I don't know, I hope that will serve, again, the goal behind that was to help serve different churches through that, not just having one style like modern worship. Also, there's a lot of brass and a lot of strings on this. So a lot of churches around the Christmas time, they've got some folks in their church that play trumpet, French horn, trombone. So we have charts. I think you have charts for all the brass parts as well as string quartet. So we have 2 violins, a viola, a cello, and almost on every song. And then we have choir parts, choral parts written out. So it's a way to involve, folks can take almost half of the album or even try to do a good part of the album involving as many people as possible in their church. That would be exciting to me to see people.
Totally.
I know that's always that tension as a worship pastor. You're trying to involve as many people as possible,
I'm just thinking now back in 1997, which was the year before PraiseCharts started, and I was a worship pastor, much like you are, in a small, as a church of 400 or 500. We were in a gym, and it came around to Christmas, and I wanted to involve all these different musicians, right? And so I bought these little books that had brass parts for these Christmas carols, and that's really how it started. There is Christmas was the time to bring in the other instruments, but I got to, Christmas was over, and I was like, I don't want to stop this. Why can't we do this with the regular worship songs? And then we went into Easter, and I was able to sort of, work it all up again. But after that Easter, I think it was Easter of 1998, and I thought, this is it. I want to have this participation and sound. And so it took kind of like the Christmas season and the Easter season to stir up that kind of vision. And then really the problem was that I had this desire, I had the musicians, and I just couldn't find the music. And that's kind of how the birth of PraiseCharts came. But here we are now, like 15 years later, and still talking about that same part of, it's an opportunity to, we're talking like you can find kids who are in grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, 12, they're all taking band at school and can play these charts after a couple of years, of concert band or whatever they're in. They can engage like this. And I firmly believe that, when they get engaged and involved and participate, something triggers in their spirit. And they feel connected, they feel a part of it. And that's what I love. It's not just about singing the latest song. It's getting them involved like that. So that's really neat that all those instruments are reflected in this album.
I love it. My son, he's one of those kids that all through high school played French horn. He considered going to college for French horn. I mean, and trumpet. So on this album, he plays a lot of the French horn parts, a lot of trumpet. Michael Rosbach plays those parts. We've got xylophones. We've got again, the quartet. It's just beautiful. This quartet from Ukraine, actually. They just come over. They've been here for about a year in Denver, and we used this string quartet. And it's just, like you said, there's a lot of folks in our church that, man, you can't play trumpet on, I don't know, the latest. I'm just as guilty. I'm just say Hillsong, the latest Hillsong United. Yeah. Like you don't hear a lot of trumpet or you don't hear a lot of string quartet. And I feel for those folks. As a worship pastor, often I'll have them come up to me and they want to be part of the team. And they're like, well, what do you play? It's like trumpet. I'm like, okay. I'll tell you what, maybe there's a song next week that we could use you on. Like, it's very, whereas this whole project to me was a chance to really involve, which is really a big part of what our goal is as worship pastors, is to try to create a sense of community with the music and the songs. That's huge. So to be able to go back to those people now and say, guess what? Here's the charts. You go to PraiseCharts. You can download these, and you can learn these parts. And come November, we're going to start doing some of these. And I think it's a great opportunity to involve some of these folks that are typically more on the sidelines.
I'm thinking this is what it is to be a worship pastor, not just a worship leader or a worship artist, but you're pastoring your people, developing community with the music as a sort of a bedrock for that. But Paul, you are a worship pastor at heart. It comes through in all of this.
Cool. Well, I think just, you realize after a few years at a church that it's not about performance. That'll last maybe 6 months. But after that, people can smell if you care about them. I think a lot of times that's the difference. As a pastor, music is secondary to loving the people that God's called you to serve. That really, that's the key, is when you look out from the platform and you look out at those faces and you just consider some of the things they're walking through, some of maybe marriages or relationships between parents and teenagers, or financial issues or health issues. Your heart just breaks for the people that you serve. And instead of it being about, hey, what cool new songs are we going to do next week? And, hey, I hope they notice this guitar solo I've been working on. And all of a sudden, that just begins to take a back seat, and you realize music and worship, not worship, but music is there to serve. It's like we are worship pastors that use music to serve our congregations. That's maybe what we're, let me say that again. We are worship pastors first, and we use music as a vehicle to serve the people God's called us to serve. So anyway,
that's right.
Yeah.
So hey, here's where I want to go next in the next parts of our time together. I'd like to. I know we have talked about the songs and spatters here a little bit, but I'd like to sort of do a flyover of the whole album. We'll just kind of talk through every song, and you can say 10 seconds about, and others you can just tell us a little more. The style, we'll give an overview of the whole album as a package and how it moves through the sequence. And then we want to start engaging with some of the questions people who are listening in have. So I just want to say, while we're doing this, those of you who are listening, you can see a little button up in the top left, and if you've got a question that you'd like to ask Paul, you just write it in there, and Natasha will take it, and we probably won't be able to get to all of them, but I just want to make this a very interactive, personal kind of time, and we'll have that kind of dialogue with Paul. So you've got kind of 10 or 15 minutes now to think that through. And meanwhile, Paul, let's do the flyover of the album. So we kind of starting with Hark the Herald Angels Sing, why don't you just kind of talk us through as you look through the list and just, what you love about it, what the song says and why it had to be in there, the style, maybe give us a sense of this kind of got the rock sound or the classic.
Oh, yeah, I wish folks could hear it. They'll be able to hear it. They'll be able to hear these very soon, but it starts off real fun and up, like a four on the floor. Hey, dun, 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 dun. It's real sort of Americana, and it's like, hark the herald angels sing, which and then we do two verses of that. Glory to the newborn King, King of heaven, come down. And we had David and Leslie from All Sons and Daughters. They sing with me on that again. So it's really awesome to have them involved, Those are they're just dear friends. I think they just did a tour of Canada, so I noticed a lot of my Canadian friends tuned in here. So
I saw them actually because they were here at our church just 5 minutes away. I did a little video interview with them, and which is on our site, and they're touring around now and doing this pastors, kind of luncheon thing. PraiseCharts is a part of that. So they're great people, really, really cool, folky, acoustic sound that they bring to their worship. So
Exactly.
Okay, so that's Hark the Herald, a great, joyful start.
We moved that. Yeah, it's real up-tempo. It's real fun. It's actually, I think, going to be a radio single, if you will. And then we go into, is it Joy to the World? I don't think so. Let's go back to the, I guess I can talk to them. How about that? Joy to the World. I didn't know that. I think we may have slightly changed the song list on the album ever so slightly. But Joy to the World.
Well, let's go with it as it shows up. We'll just go with it.
That's cool, yeah. So Joy to the World is, of course, another great up-tempo song filled with beautiful content. And it's one of those that you have to sing at Christmas. It's just glorious.
Yeah.
But, again, it's just one of those, I always wish there was another section. So we combined it with a song called Shout for Joy that I wrote with Jason Ingram and Lincoln Brewster. And it's a real up-tempo version. So I'm just excited for folks to hear that. And, again, it's a little bit more of I would say that's more up-tempo rock version almost. Then we do a bridge that comes down, Jesus, Emmanuel, oh, come, let us adore him. And then it goes back into shout for joy. So, not every church will do that, but churches that are maybe more expressive and inclined to be more like, hey. So anyway, and then we move into.
So I remember you telling me about writing that song "Shout for Joy" with Lincoln, and he kind of veered off in a bit of an ending, and you had your own ending, and so because he has that on his Christmas album, of course, but you guys kind of each have your unique twists on that song in particular. Is that right?
Yes. We just agreed to disagree on the bridge, which is fine. Sometimes when you're co-writing, there's a little give and take, and there was a bridge that Jason and I, originally we preferred the bridge musically, and then Lincoln preferred a different bridge, so we just shook hands and said, no problem, let's give people an option. They can take a choice. They can choose. So,
So then we're moving, I think Offering is at least next in our list. I don't know if this matches the order on the album, but Offering, of course, many of us are familiar with, and it's really the first Christmas song that, you brought this whole world of rewriting your classics into Christmas themes, and Offering has been so well used by churches over the years, hey?
Oh, yeah. I'm always, super surprised. Very, very surprised.
And
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when I first heard this, there were two versions. You had one with the black choir and one without, and I didn't quite know which one you were going to go with, but I'm so glad that you took a bold step and really did a fresh arrangement that anyone listening, if you've got a worship choir and you want to step it up a bit and almost surprise people with, maybe they didn't see that coming, but it so works. And, it's like an old song just made anew and fresh and alive. And I think that's really great.
Yeah. Again, I just thought I don't want to just keep doing the same old. So I'm thrilled for people to hear it. And again, another way to involve your choir, which is always a bit of an issue. Even if you have a choir of 10 people, I always feel like at Christmas time, throughout the year, we don't generally have a big choir, but around Christmas time, often we'll bring in and almost create a choir of 20, 30 people just to sort of just involve more folks. So Anyway, so
I'm just going to interject here. I'm just going to interject before to say, because people might be wondering, that the whole album, you can stream all of the songs, the full-length audio. You can stream and listen to these songs on PraiseCharts, but the album doesn't actually release until the end of October. So this is really kind of a special pre-advance release that we're doing as PraiseCharts with Paul and Integrity and Lead Worship to try and give advance access to this music, specifically because you guys are preparing for, planning your worship services, and sometimes end of October, early November starts feeling a bit late. So that's how you can listen to these songs now.
Oh, I'm so glad. So literally everybody that's on everybody that's on the webinar can actually hear the songs today?
Yes.
How do they do that? How do they stream that?
It's streaming. You just go to. I mean, we've got all the songs, all the charts, and there's a little audio button that so you click on that, and the song will start playing. So they can't download it; they can listen. So then they get a sense of how they go, and then they can already get the charts. And if you want to send your worship band to PraiseCharts to say, well, listen to this to figure out how your vocal part goes, because I mean, I know people have worship practices for Christmas. They're already starting this week, So that's a beautiful thing about getting these songs into the Christmas flow. Well, let's keep talking about the songs. What's next on the list? This is great.
Well,
O Come Emmanuel.
O Come Emmanuel. So my wife rewrote a couple of the verses here. I mean, I had a little bit of a hand, but a lot of folks might remember my wife, Rita. We've been married 26 years, and, when we first started, writing, I hadn't even written a song when we moved to Texas. She wrote songs like, I will celebrate, sing
I love that.
Lord, sing to the, so many others. I mean, I was her guitar player and manager and husband. And it wasn't until I started plugging into this local church here in Texas as a guitarist and then worship leader, and little by little began to write, and so it's just that's been part of our journey. And Rita has continued to write over the years, and I've always been a part of each album. So it's fun. She has about 3 songs on this project, and so she took O Come Emmanuel, which is such a powerful. It's really dark. And in a great way. It's really moody, and there's such a longing in it.
Well, it's Advent, right? It's the Advent song. The longing. That's what Advent is, yes.
Truly. So, there's such a longing in it. O come Emmanuel, oh God. And I feel like it gives all of us a chance to express things that we feel like, oh God, when is this situation going to change? Oh God, when is this going to happen? Oh God, when is this promise going to come through that we felt like you gave to us? And all of us can relate to this sense of angst and longing and crying out that the Israelites felt. So anyway, Rita rewrote, I love the first verse. And then, you know how that is. Sometimes you'll take a Christmas song and maybe verse 4 and 5 are just a little bit out there. In my opinion, it's like, that's a little difficult for people to. So, O come, O Son of God Most High, deliver us from sinfulness and pride, restore in us a childlike heart to consecrate and set us apart. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel. Anyway, the instrumentation on this is crazy. To me, it's one of my favorite musical moments on the album. Ben Gal has this just gnarly kind of slide guitar thing going on, and there's a quartet that feels almost Eleanor Rigby-like, if I may say. It's sort of that brooding sense. You get Eleanor Rigby with that 4-piece quartet, and then there's a moment, a bridge where it goes to a major key, and there's some French horn and brass there, and I had a guest artist, again, a young gal from Houston who used to be at Teen Mania. Her name's Danny Roca. And just an amazing voice. And she's a young gal nobody's ever heard of, and I love that people are going to get to hear her sing. So
yeah, awesome. Yep. So Angels We Have Heard on High. This starts with a really cool acoustic guitar kind of instrumental, like a whole section, and then isn't that right? And then it kind of breaks into this rock groove.
Exactly. We were in the studio. Let's see, at this particular time, we were at Michael Rosbach's home studio down in his basement, and we were kind of had a tempo going and a kick drum going, and we each had acoustic guitars, and him and Ben just started noodling. And the more they noodled, it was this beautiful little moment. We're like, you know what? That would be awesome let's just go ahead and do that. Let's just create a few moments on the record where there's no singing, but it's almost like a Selah moment where people can just kind of quietly just hear some instrumental music that references the Christmas melodies, but it allows them to just sort of digest. I just imagine this kind of project on as people are throughout the Christmas season, throughout December, and just some moments where they're just contemplative kind of music in the background. So, I love that little preamble to Angels. It's like acoustic guitar, up-tempo, acoustic guitar, 2 or 3 acoustics there. And then it goes into Angels We Have Heard on High. Yeah, exactly. So I wrote this section, and we did this last year at my church, where in excelsis Deo, and then back into the second verse, come to Bethlehem and see, let the angels sing. Oh, in excelsis Deo. And then it goes to a 4 chord. We will raise our voices. Well, I started in the wrong key, but it's Deo. Whoa. I just love the idea of Deo, of course, is Latin for God. So it's let me put it in a better key. Angels we have heard on high. So it's like, Deo, whoa, we will raise our voices. Deo, oh, it's kind of a fun release, just singing to the Lord. And I'm real happy with how that turned out.
I love it.
Yeah. Cool.
These songs, it's like all these songs just come alive again, and you have such, you have the perfect suite of songs you've written over the ages, like King of Heaven and all these songs that, shout for joy. They're just perfect matches for these Christmas carols. It's beautiful how this is coming together. What Can I Do? Let's move on to that one. So
okay. Well, that is again a song I wrote with Graham Kendrick, who's like the king of lyrics, and we probably exchanged 100 emails back and forth. No lie, no exaggeration. Back and forth. Wow. We probably wrote 10 verses until we really until we just refined it, till we said we both feel strong about this. And we wanted to take What Can I Do is one of those songs. I love the chorus. I felt like the chorus is very appropriate for Christmas. It's that in response to what God has done for us, in response to Him sending His Son into the world, our response is, what can I do but thank you? What can I do but give my life to you? Hallelujah. What can I do but praise you? So it just felt like that idea of what gift can I bring you? What can I do? What can we offer? Almost like the little drummer boy. Like, what can I do other than play drums for you, play my drums, rimpa-bump. So anyway, from the high and holy to a manger lowly, the greatest mystery the world has ever known, how you left your majesty to embrace humanity. It awes and humbles me to be loved by a God so high. What can I do but thank you? And then second verse, to the least and lowest you became as one of us. In our grief and brokenness, you suffered by our side. From a cradle to the cross, rising up victorious, the Messiah, Jesus, born to us on that holy night. So anyway, I'm really pleased again. A bunch of songwriters telling the gospel story over and over. And to me, this tells the gospel once again.
Yeah. When you were saying about Graham Kendrick, is that the original version, or did you bring him into the Christmas version as well and do that whole email exchange?
Oh, yeah, very much.
Oh,
very much. I called him and said, Graham, what can I do is when I really want to include that on this project because, as I said already, that the chorus to me, even after 10 years, it's to me one of my personal favorite songs, if I'm allowed to have a personal favorite, because I love that the verses basically they try to describe God and tell His story, and then the chorus is a response, a personal response to God as a result of what we just referred to in the verses. And I asked him, hey, Graham, let's put our heads together. Let's prayerfully chew on some new verses for this song. And again, that's part of, I would say there's a third of the album, as I said, are familiar choruses that your congregation, they might know the chorus and they know how the melody on the verse goes, but all of a sudden these are fresh Christmas verse lyrics. So it's not like you're teaching a brand new song to your congregation. For a lot of the congregations out there, they have the melody is somewhat familiar to them, so it's just a matter of singing the new lyrics that are on the screen.
Yeah. I think that's like the next song Your Name is really like that as well, where I really feel like this song is going to be the one that's just almost an automatic for churches, because it's such a worship-filled song, and the name, Emmanuel, all those kind of Christmas themes that come through when Jesus was born, and all the names that were prophesied over him, and this song speaks to that. It's perfect for really direct to God worship at Christmas time. I'm really excited about that one.
Exactly. So this is the paradigm, and in fact, I would challenge any songwriters out there. There may be, of course, I'll talk about Your Name in a moment, but take a familiar chorus and maybe, I don't know how much freedom you have if it's someone else's song. You could take if it's just for your church. That's the other thing. Honestly, all of these have been done in my home church. So I've in a sense, tested these, if you will. And I did them initially for my own church, not for a CD. This was primarily as a worship pastor. How can I get my folks? What are some things I can do? And there's many other songs I've done over the years that are not included. But the idea of taking a very familiar chorus and rewriting maybe a verse. So this one, of course, was co-written with Glenn Packiam. And everyone tuning in might know Glenn Packiam from New Life Church in Colorado Springs. He used to be with Desperation Band. And so, again, choruses, it looks like it's just a few lines, and yet it's funny how you wrestle with it trying to but the idea is taking a familiar melody and putting new words, so your congregation is singing, humbly to the earth you came, born into this world. I let you say to save, not to say. A little typo. Sorry. So
Natasha will fix that right now.
Came, born into this world to save. God with us, Emmanuel. Now we adore your name. Your name is a strong and mighty tower. And then we kept the second verse as is because it's very much a prayer, sincere prayer. Then the bridge we added, you'll hear Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace. And then on the outro we repeat, God with us, Emmanuel. God with us, Emmanuel. Keeps repeating that. God with us, Emmanuel, now we adore your name.
Yeah. I'm just listening as you're talking. People are chatting and just talking about how much they love. Priscilla's just saying now how much they love Your Name, and thank you for making this available at Christmas. So now we need to speed things up, Paul. We have way too much to talk about, and I know I want to take people's questions, but let's get through this. This is love. There's a couple This Is Love, and I definitely want to talk about Follow That Star. That's a new song, a really evangelistic song. So let's talk about This Is Love.
Let's do a lightning round. Let's make each of these 30 seconds so we can get the questions. Ready?
Okay,
so This Is Love.
Do it.
This was a song, an original song, started with Catherine and I, Catherine Scott over in Belfast. And again, it was written pretty much over Skype and over emails, back and forth. And it's amazing that you can write with someone on the other side of the world through Skype now. But and Catherine takes the lead on this. It's just amazing. It's glorious. It makes me cry. Heaven's splendor left behind. The King of glory born to die, God and man to reconcile, came to offer up your life. This is love, this is love. Anyway, I'm not doing it any justice. Oh, I can't wait for you to hear Catherine sing this. Incarnate King, begotten Son, this is love that you choose to make your home in us. So, and then we just added the come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free from our fears and sins, release us. Let us find our rest in thee. Just, it's a powerful prayer. Awesome. So, we'll move on. Next one, lightning round.
Okay, follow that star. This is a good one. It really represents your heart of evangelism at Christmas time and just speaking to people who are searching, right?
Amen. This is the one exception on the album that I don't know how congregational it is, but it's meant to be you could call it a seeker type song. A lot of times at Christmas we find that people will maybe go to church at Christmas and Easter. So, and I have to give 100% of this is this is her song. Rita wrote this, and it's just amazing. In the quiet of the night, under the wide expanse of sky, again, imagine the wise men, so the 3 wise men who were following the star. So this is imagine someone coming to your church on Christmas and they're just not sure about this church thing anymore, but their cousin drug them to church, and there they go up there, and maybe for the special or for the offering, or maybe towards the end of worship, someone steps out and sings this. But in the quiet of the night, under the wide expanse of sky, I'm alone and asking questions. Why? What's this longing in my heart? What's the reason for my life? And the solitary light is shining, calling, follow that star, follow that star. Uncover the mystery of who you are. I've searched for a lifetime. I've come from afar. Discovered my destiny is to follow that star. And it just, and I have to put in a plug. Aaron Schust, some of your listeners may know Aaron.
Yep.
The way we did this, again, it sort of rocks. It's got a bit of a mid-tempo rock feel to it, and I just heard in my head as I was singing it, I thought I could hear Aaron doing like 2 guys, like a kind of a Americana kind of rock kind of thing. And I pray and hope that this song really stirs that seeker who's going to show up at Christmas and stirs their heart and says, man, that's me, man, that's me. I'm just wondering, like, what's it all about? What's the point? And just to say, hey guys, follow that star. It's the morning star. Follow Jesus. Anyway.
I'm going to use that as a segue to our question time, because someone is asking that very thing. Dusty says, Paul, what tips can you give us to help make our Christmas services worshipful and meaningful to the visiting crowd, quote unquote, that is only around at Christmas and Easter time? So I bet a lot of people are facing that question, how to make it meaningful to those transient people. That's the opportunity. So let's talk about that a little bit. And we're going to have to go like 30 seconds on each of these questions, because I got 20 or so. See what you can do. Here we go.
Lightning round. I'll try to be quick. I would say a song like that is seeker-friendly. Also, Christmas carols in general, everybody knows these. So that's the beauty of a person who's they're not used to worship as most of us are accustomed to. But there they are singing the Christmas carol that they're familiar with, and then all of a sudden it launches into something that they didn't expect. And there's people in your church that start singing this prayer out to God, and maybe it creates a context for them that they'd never had before. They're used to hearing these Christmas carols in Walmart or Tim Hortons or, all throughout the shopping season, unfortunately. And here they are now in a church context, and they hear them the way they're supposed to be heard, to bring revelation and inspiration to our hearts toward God. And then I would suggest that maybe you could teach some of these little choruses a few weeks even before the Christmas season. You could take King of Heaven, for example, and teach just that chorus on its own, or teach Your Name, or teach What Can I Do during October, just not the Christmas version.
Right.
And then just to lock in those melodies, and then all of a sudden, come Thanksgiving and throughout December, then you switch over to that same song, but it has these Christmas lyrics. And I think seekers will just look around and be caught up in like, wow, everybody knows these songs, and this is powerful. I just think the presence of the Lord, that's our prayer, is that the presence of the Lord will disarm them and really open up their hearts to meet Him.
Yeah, that's perfect. Angela was just asking how to teach these new choruses to a congregation when the season is so short. There's just 5 weeks, but you're just speaking right to that with some of this you can already work these melodies and choruses in October, and then so that's why it's important to kind of be thinking already about how to move towards a very worshipful season at Christmas, and I think it's very possible. So
Hey,
Fred
real quick,
says, hey, Paul. Okay,
Let me ask real quick. Let me interrupt. Sorry, Jeff has a good point. He says seeker is a word that has so much baggage. Is there a better term? I think,
okay.
I mean, we all know what we're talking about. You're right. I'm just using that because it's somewhat familiar, but I know that all of us, in the body of Christ, that word may have some, quote, baggage. But all I'm referring to is someone that does not have a relationship with Jesus, someone who is maybe curious, let's say, someone who hopefully there's a little bit of something in their heart and mind that says, maybe I'll give this God thing one more chance. Maybe I'll go back and maybe. So I don't know of a better word, Jeff. Maybe you can contribute to that. And somebody who's curious, someone who still has a little bit of an open heart that around the Christmas season just gets a little bit more tender and is a little bit more pliable and open, perhaps, to the opportunity of actually meeting God for the first time or the second time or the third time,
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Fred says, now this one might be a little challenging for you, but I'm going to do it. He says, what's your personal thought on Advent songs and only singing Advent songs prior to Christmas? For example, not singing Joy to the World until Christmas. Do you have any thoughts or theology or experience about, trying to retain the purity of the Advent season, or what's your thoughts on that?
Man, if we took a poll of all the people that are online right now, I mean, we all do church differently, and so I can't say that without offending someone, because there's probably certain denominations that are tuned in right now that's part of your liturgy. That's part of, Advent is you're very strict about that. So I'm not going to say ignore that. If that is part of your tradition, then you need to work that out with your team and find songs that will. Me personally, I think a blend is fine. I think leading up to, maybe as you move toward actual Christmas Day, you can sort of change the mixture, from zero. You've got the mixture from 100% zero, maybe 80-20, and then maybe 75-25, and maybe 50-50 by the time it's 2 weeks out. But personally, I think to just say Joy to the World for basically Christmas, and then that's it. It's the only time of the year you're going to ever sing that. I love the fact that from mid-November to the end of the year, in fact, I always go until New Year's Eve, even the week after Christmas. I feel it from our congregation. They still want to sing Christmas songs. So I go until the end of the year, and then that first Sunday in January, that's when I flip back over to. But that's just me. I think people love to sing those, and I'll even say that, on maybe December 28th, if you will. I'll say, well, guys, this is probably going to be our last Sunday that we get to sing some of these beautiful carols. So let's stand up again and let's sing, "Oh, come, all ye faithful."
Yeah.
I don't think there's any danger in that. So that's my 2 cents.
I think that's totally fair and appropriate way, and recognizing that there's lots of people from different liturgical to charismatic and conservative and blended, all kinds of worship styles, and it's important that it's important that what you do with meaning and doing with a heart of worship. And if it's in your heart to be more pure in selecting Advent songs, then do that and do it with all your heart and make it a time of worship, right? So let's talk a little bit about Christmas Eve. Al is asking, what's your formula for Christmas Eve worship? What have you done in the past couple of years? What's your greatest memories of Christmas Eve, just impacting, all the variety of people that come to your church on that night?
Again, the emphasis is on the singing, worship. There's not a big, long sermon in general. It's definitely, the goal is to create a sense of community and to create an atmosphere of worship. And I think by the time we hit Christmas Eve, we've already sung a lot of the choruses a lot. So in our church, if there are some searching souls, if you will, or seekers, they're just kind of blown away at how loud people are singing, how earnest they are. They're not just singing, but it's like we're blown away by this enthusiastic, worshipful expression, if you will. So,
yeah.
What our Christmas Eve looks like is, and then we do a lighting the candle thing. So we end up. Maybe I'll do about half an hour, 20 minutes at least of just congregational singing with worship. Our pastor will come up and maybe read kind of the Christmas story, maybe a very brief commentary, and just, talk about how, making room for Jesus in our lives and blah, 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 and coming to the end of the year, let's take inventory and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm trying to speed up here. And then we'll close with maybe one or two more carols. We do a Christmas candle lighting where, we light it and the person turns and they light it. And so it's beautiful to watch this candle lighting go all the way to the back. And we usually close with something like Silent Night or something that's more very familiar so that everyone can participate and yet very kind of intimate, and it's beautiful. So that's what we've done historically.
Yeah, that's good. I'm thinking about the person who asked, how do we get those people who are like the transient people, the people that just come at Christmas and Easter, and what can we do to, have them not just come at Christmas and Easter, to come back. And the thought that's burning in my heart is the truth that what will make people ultimately come back is when God's Spirit touches them or speaks to them or does a transforming work in their hearts. And so it's not our job. It's God, His Spirit. He's going to work in people, and we just need to set up that context and opportunity and trust that He's going to work in some people's lives, and they're going to think they were just coming for Christmas, but they'll be drawn back to that, that true spirit of worship and truth, that we have an opportunity to almost surprise them. Like, I thought this was just going to be a carol sing, but I met God.
Exactly.
And I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's Jeff again says, references that often people are almost burned out by the time December comes because they've been hearing the songs. One thing we can do as worship pastors is remind people each Sunday in December is like, okay, good morning, all. Let's stand up together. And just a reminder, some of these songs you've probably heard in the shopping malls, perhaps in the last few weeks, or restaurants. But this is what those songs were created for, what we're about to do right now, which is to sing these out together as a community, as a family of God, and to remind our hearts and minds and remind one another the true purpose and meaning and reason for Christmas. And these songs were written by men and women who knew Christ, who knew God, who knew the true meaning of Christmas. And so all that to say, if you just make a brief reference, just remind people, well, good morning, folks. I know you've probably heard these all week, but we're going to sing them in the way they were intended. We're going to worship God with these songs. So let's stand together and let's sing, a hark the heralding. And I think just that little bit of a context just flips a little switch in people's mind, like, oh, I was almost sick of this song, but, oh, right, now I'm actually singing it in worship to God.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Let's close at least this formal part of our time together with you praying for us and all the worship leaders and pastors and musicians that are listening in. I feel like, we're all on the brink of such an opportunity, the season that's in front of us. And so, Paul, you just pray God's wisdom and blessing and, powerful ministry that would stretch out over the whole world. All these people are listening, and we have an opportunity to surprise, our congregations with something that goes way deeper than just, a Christmas carol. It's a heart of worship. So I'm just going to invite you to do that, and then we'll close out with a little chit chat with people who are chatting and having other questions and things like that.
I will say,
go for it, Paul. Thank you.
I'm sitting here. I'm looking at names here, and I want to respond. I've just a few times, like in between, I'm trying to type. I'm a slow typist, but I want to respond to every person on here. So many of your names are familiar to me. Some of you I know as acquaintances, or I know through Twitter or Facebook, and I'm just honored and just want to say thank you for being interested enough to tune in. Thank you for your service. I mean, your motivation in tuning in, I believe, is because you care about the people God's called you to serve. So I just, it's kind of emotional. I mean, I'm just looking at these names, and it's like I know a lot of these people, and some of you I don't know, but I'm moved that there's just a community of believers, weekend warriors, week in and week out. You care about the people you serve, and that's just such a beautiful thing to me. And so, God, I turn my heart to you. We collectively, around the world, we just turn our hearts to you right now. We open our hearts to you, and we make room. As Joy to the World says, we let every heart prepare him room. And so we let it begin with us, Lord. Let it begin with the leaders that are represented here, Lord. As we humbly say, we're sorry, Lord, as the song says, take us back to the heart of worship. It's all about you. Take us back to the heart of Christmas. It's all about you, Lord. We're sorry, Lord, for this thing that we've made it. When it's all about you, we're coming back to the heart of Christmas, if you will. And so we prepare room. We start right now. We begin now, today, to just prepare and make room in our lives. Maybe there's some things we need, just busyness and activity and all the things that our folks are going to be experiencing in November and December. As crazy busy as life is now, it gets even crazier in December. And so let it begin with us now, Lord. Teach us, each one of us, to go before those that we get to lead, and to begin to deal with the busyness in our hearts and the sense of being overwhelmed and with all the things we have to do. And begin now, Lord, to just reignite a sense of intimacy and that pureness, that pure desire to honor you, to love you, to invite others into that relationship with you. And we just cry out for help. Collectively, we cry out. We can't do it in our own strength. There's no technique. There's no 7 tricks and tips. It starts with us crying out to you from the bottom of our soul and saying, oh, God, hear the cry of our hearts. Hear the cry of our hearts, Lord. Help each one of us. We are each uniquely made, so only you can right now prescribe what the next few months will be like for us, to prepare our hearts to effectively lead others in worship to you. So we open our hearts right now as you're the great physician, and we wait for that prescription, if you will. You're writing a prescription for each one of us, and you're saying, Jeff, this is what you need to hear. Kenny, this is what you need to hear. Mary, this is what you need to hear. And so we open our hearts and say, Lord, speak to us. Give us the ability to discern your voice, to receive from you, to receive that still small voice, and then to respond in obedience. So I just pray a blessing over each one of these. Pray a blessing for their spiritual lives, for their relationships, for their health, for the marriages that are out there. Just pray your blessing and that you would be present, Lord. That's what I pray above all else, that we would experience your presence from the time we wake up to the time we lay our heads down on the pillow, and then all throughout the night. God, give us dreams and visions, I pray, in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name.
Good stuff. Amen. That was awesome.